Unflappable, unshakable, however you describe Syracuse's resilient play of late, they come out on top again today versus Rutgers. Coming up next on Orange Press Pass, we have a complete report, including you'll hear from Jim Boeheim and Syracuse's star player today, CJ Fair, and also a live report from New Jersey.
I'm Mark Sell, live from Piscataway, and that's right, Ryan, because I'm going to tell you exactly what the players and Jim Boeheim had to say about CJ Fair's career day here from the rack. Keep it right here. It's the Orange Press Pass. It starts right now.
Welcome into Orange Press Pass. Following SU's 27th win of the season, I'm Ryan Coletti alongside our analysts Josh Wetmore and Dan Gerard. SU going up against a Rutgers team that clearly would not be unfazed by Syracuse, number 2 team in the nation going into Piscataway. Earlier this season, you could see, going off the records that Rutgers had against those top 10 teams, they had success against those good teams in Rutgers.
Yeah, they have, although I do think that their success against ranked teams at the rack is a little deceptive when you look at it. I mean, Villanova last year, that's different team, different players, and then UConn, they've been plummeting in Big East play. Still impressive, but not quite as impressive as the stats suggest.
And also looking at that Florida game, obviously Florida came into the Dome earlier this year. Syracuse got the win there. Florida's had their fits on the road, especially in SEC play. Also got to remember, Syracuse back in 2003 also fell at the rack. So the rack, a very formidable home court for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Well, let's see how Syracuse was able to buck the trend at the rack, and a sold-out crowd of 8,093. I'm pretty sure the Carrier could fit that in the bathroom, but we'll move on. Brandon Triche starts things off with the orange, picking the pocket of Eli Carter, going the other way. Syracuse tied with Rutgers 4-4 in the early going. Scoop Jardine also leading orange today with a lot of assists, but he also had it going shooting-wise, hitting it from that downtown. Syracuse is up 7-6. But enter Gilvitas Baruta. Who is this?
Well, not a name many people know. Also not a name very many people can pronounce. But he had a great game. Really surprised Syracuse, just a sophomore, and may not look like a big physical presence, but he really was in this game.
Baruta was leading Rutgers in the first half, leading Syracuse on the assist. Scoop Jardine to Brandon Triche. This looked like Superman, Dan.
Oh, everyone wants to talk about Rack City. Well, Lob City's really had its place here on the East Coast at Syracuse. Lob City also out west at LA.
Baruta continues a strong play in the first half, putting Rutgers up 19-16. They led back and forth first half, where Syracuse is able to counter-strike. Here's Chris Joseph from the corner missing. Follow up, though, by CJ Fair. Right place, right time, all game long. CJ is able to put that back. Dion Waiters going in the other end. There's another signature breakaway dunk for him. SU up 30-28. They take back that lead. And then closing out the half, look at this play from Scoop Jardine again off the miss. CJ Fair, an impressive adjustment in the air. And as they head into halftime and the locker room, Syracuse takes the lead 40-34. And the field goal, Syracuse shooting 13 of 28, Rutgers 15 of 31. So both teams shooting it pretty well. But then again, there's that rebounding numbers that's been haunting Syracuse, 16-11 so far.
Yeah, I mean, still something that the Orange need to work on, but I don't think that's going to change. All season long, come tournament time, Big East tournament, you're still going to hear about it. The rebounding's a problem, but they still find ways to win without it.
It's more alarming in this type of game because Rutgers is not really a big, imposing lineup. You'd certainly like to see Fab Melo dominate more inside, but that's just really not his game. He'll get those shot blocks, but the rebounding's still something that he lacks.
So 40-34 it was at half. Into the second half action now. Syracuse fans made most of the travel down to Rutgers. Here's Fab Melo putting a putback dunk. Only 6 points for him on the day. 42-36 SU leads. Jim Boeheim approving so far. Scoop Jardine leading another transition bucket for Syracuse. They now take a 7-point lead, 46-39. Eli Carter from downtown. He's led Rutgers a lot of these upsets over the top 10 teams, and Carter puts Rutgers within 3, 53-50. Now it's Chris Joseph with the response. Once again, Syracuse able to respond 56-50. They're extending their lead. Rutgers with another response. So back and forth all game long between Rutgers and Syracuse.
It was answer for answer in this game, and not what you would expect when a team like Syracuse plays a team like Rutgers, but both teams really going blow for blow.
Mike Poole with the floater there, getting Mike Rice all fired up. Wow, have you seen Mike Rice as fired up as that?
Very fiery individual, Mike Rice. He was like that at Robert Morris, leading them to back-to-back NCAA tournaments. Done a really good job at Rutgers, only his second year there.
Scoop Jardine again taking over in the second half. It looks like Groundhog Day from the UConn game where he was able to hit those downtown shots. The SU bench obviously improving in a big three here.
And it's really not a surprise. I've come to really expect this from Scoop Jardine, especially in crunch time. He just knows it's not the prettiest of shots, but it seems like time after time he always goes in.
Syracuse up 7, and then Fab Melo with a big rebound as SU takes this one. 74-64, able to finally pull away from that pesky Rutgers team with a 10-point win. Leading the Orange today, CJ Fair with 21 points. Scoop Jardine 17 points, but more importantly, 7 assists. Scoop Jardine able to distribute the ball well today.
I mean, it's just a straight-up fact for this Syracuse team. When Scoop Jardine is distributing the ball well, forget about the points. When he's distributing it well and not making turnovers, they are at their most successful.
Yeah, no question about that. People want to look back to that Louisville game where he did have the goose egg. He still had 5 assists and 5 rebounds, so he's still helping in other facets of the game. Certainly when he helps in the scoring aspect, he'll help big time. But the 7 assists, huge. Of course, CJ Fair, career day for him. 3 straight games that he's just really been the linchpin for this team.
And following the Monday night game against Louisville, Jim Boeheim said Scoop Jardine's been shooting 50%, 100% one game, 0% the other. Let's hear what he had to say following this win, the latest win over Rutgers.
Well, CJ was great in the first half. He was unbelievable in the first half.
Coach, what
He
did
wasn't
you
bad all the whole game for him.
And we're having some technical difficulties with the Jim Boeheim's post-game press conference there. It seems like I heard somebody taking an elevator up, or I don't know what was going on.
Fire alarm going on there, Rutgers there.
A fire alarm, but SU was able to withstand the firestorm that Rutgers brought in here with consistent shooting and clutch shooting down the stretch.
I think it would have been very easy for Syracuse to get caught off guard by the way the Scarlet Knights team came in, particularly with the way Barutis was playing down low. They stuck with it just like they did against Louisville. I think this team's showing a lot of character the way they're able to stick with teams on the road.
And there was that stretch in the second half where it seemed like both Syracuse and Rutgers were trading buckets, and that Chris Joseph hit a big 3. Of course, that Scoop Jardine 3 down the stretch. Very clutch. I just feel like time and time again, this team knows and is aware of the situation they're in. And game after game, the reason why they're 27-1, because if it's a close game, you feel like one of these players, whether it's Scoop Jardine, whether it's Trish, Dion Waiters, Chris Joseph, the names go on and on, I still have the full trust they're going to hit those
That's
big
the thing
buckets.
about the depth is you have a lot of guys who can be hot, so you just go with the hot hand at the end of the game, and it's been working for the Orange.
Well, let's go out back to Piscataway, New Jersey, hopefully minus the fire alarm this time with our reporter, Mark Sell. You can follow his tweets all game long at Citrus TV Sports. Mark joins us now. Mark, obviously the big story of the day was CJ Fair and how he was able to lead the Orange down the stretch. What did the players say about him in the locker room, and especially CJ? What has he said about his improved play?
Well, it's interesting, Ryan, because I talked to CJ about
So still some fire alarm problems down there in Piscataway, New Jersey.
That's New Jersey for you.
As we continue along on Orange Press Pass, we talked about CJ Fair, and we talked about the way he was able to lead the Orange, but it was also the guards who were able to knock down consistent shots, especially when Rutgers was able to punch them. SU had that counterpunch.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, as we said, that's how you stick with teams. When a team punches, you got to punch back. Syracuse able to do it. And I think when you look at the depth here with this team, James Sutherland had a very off night, didn't even get much time. You look at the players on the roster and who's hitting, and you keep them in the game. And Jim Boeheim, you got to give him credit. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason. He figures out how to manage this team on a game-by-game basis. Who needs to be in there, what combinations need to be in there, and he's done a great job of figuring that out.
Yeah, and today, Brandon Trish had an off game, only 5 points for him. Dion Waiters an off game, 7 points for him. Really, this game was about Scoop Jardine, but it's really a game-to-game basis. It could be any of those 3 guys, and if you want to include James Sutherland in that as well. And that's, I think, the key is we've touched on the depth all season long, how crucial it is. Michael Carter-Williams has not played the last 2 games, really going back to that UConn game where he got into a little bit of a riff with Coach Boeheim. But really, any of them, I have the full compliment and the full trust that on a night-to-night basis, I have the full compliment they'll get it done.
So I gave you a little bit of a tease of Mark Sell. Hopefully we have him now joining us in Piscataway. Mark Sell joining us at the RAC Center. And Mark, you talk about CJ Fair's play. What did the team have to say about that following this latest win?
The big thing they talked about, Ryan, is specifically his confidence that he's displaying on the court, especially in these past few games, ever since that double-double he had against Connecticut a couple of games ago. You know, CJ's not afraid to take that outside shot. That's what guys like Scoop Jardine and Chris Joseph said when I talked to him. And then when I went up to CJ himself, I just said, you know, in these past few games, what's so different about your play compared to the beginning of the year? And he said, again, much more confident exactly when he's out there on the court. Same thing when I talked to Coach Boeheim, actually. I just said, you know, again, what's different about CJ now than before? And Coach Boeheim, very short-witted answer, just said nothing, been the same guy. And that's exactly what Scoop said as well. He said, you know, he's going to be on the same guy that's going to go out there, work every single day, and he's, you know, going to be in class tomorrow. So
CJ Fair with growing confidence, but it seems like teams are having growing confidence going up against the Orange. They may be figuring them out a little bit. Rutgers certainly looked like one of those teams today. What did the team say about the way Rutgers was able to attack the Orange?
Well, one thing that Coach Boeheim has specifically stressed is the way that Rutgers was able to patiently move the ball and penetrate the zone, and that's exactly how you saw with the heck of a first half that Gilvitas Barutas had for Rutgers. And Coach Boeheim also said, you know, Rutgers is one of those teams that Syracuse just doesn't match up very well with. And with Rutgers, with the way that you actually want to get a hold of them, teams like Florida and Georgetown, who ironically lost here in this venue, teams like that are going to pressure Rutgers at the top of the key, really force them to make mistakes. But Syracuse, with that infamous 2-3 zone, setting back a lot, that gave Rutgers much more time to get into their set. That's how they were able to feed it out underneath to Barutas throughout the entire game. And Barutas also had a career high as well with 21 points.
The Orange again proving, Mark, going 14-1 now in the Big East, that they could go on the road and win in tough arenas. Was the Rec Center one of those tough arenas today going up against the Orange?
Today, the website posted sellout crowd here at the Rack, and a very interesting configuration. As you can see, the ceilings kind of are slanted at the top, so only just about 8,000 today, 8,093 people in attendance to be exact. But yeah, this is one of those venues that, you know, Syracuse had to come in. They had to deal with the crowd that was on Rutgers and really behind them for after every single play. And based on the game that you just watched, you know, the referees were really letting these guys play out here today. You know, there were some fouls that really could have gone either way. You could definitely see the student section really behind them, groaning and moaning like that. But also at the same time, you know, I also asked Scoop Jardine afterwards. I said, you know, what you guys really do in this week to prepare yourself for a game like this at this arena? And he just said, you know, we just did the same thing. Syracuse definitely proved that they could go on the road, win at some of these tough places like Fifth Third Arena and Louisville last Monday, Ryan.
All right, Mark Sell from Piscataway, New Jersey, frozen in time, but you could hear his report live from Piscataway from the locker room. We take our first break here on Orange Press Pass. Coming back, we'll talk about our top performers for today. CJ Fair is one of them. Who was the other? Coming up next on Orange Press Pass.
April, yeah? You know your charger's still using energy when it's plugged into the wall, right?
Yeah, but that's not my charger. I don't even have a cell phone.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
Yo, check out this chef, right?
Right? That's so gay. That's really gay.
Dude, look at those hands.
Please don't say that.
What?
Don't say that something is gay when you mean that something is dumb or stupid. It's insulting. It's like if I thought this pepper shaker was stupid and I said, man, and this pepper shaker is so 16-year-old boy with a cheesy mustache. Just saying. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
Explore new worlds. Read. Visit literacy.gov.
Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. I'm Ryan Coletti with our analysts Josh Wetmore and Dan Gerard. Let's take a look at the top performers from the 74-64 SU win over top Rutgers. First up for Rutgers, it was a surprising play from Gilvitas Baruta.
Yeah, the Lithuanian last year as a freshman had 12 points and 8 rebounds when the two teams played at the Dome, an 84-80 overtime win for the Orange. Today, 21 points, 7 rebounds, really was throwing his will inside all throughout the first half. Really consistent performance for him. Fab Melo really was having a tough time with the big Lithuanian.
And also CJ Fair, Josh, leading the way for the Orange.
Yeah, well, Fab Melo is going to be having nightmares of Barutis. Rutgers is going to be having nightmares of CJ Fair. And that goes for last year, too. He had 17 and 8 last year against Rutgers. And really, he is just starting to take over for this Syracuse team. And it's the little things that he does well, along with the big things. Rebounds and 8 for 8 from the line for an Orange team that was struggling from the free throw strike.
So Fair, obviously a great game today, once again for him. And this has been a sequence of games for CJ where he's been on the rise. What do you attribute that to, Josh?
Well, I think he's just a great player, and I think you're just starting to see it more and more as he's getting more comfortable within this offense and getting more confident in his own abilities. I think people underestimate the athleticism that he has. They take a look at Fab Melo and Dion Waiters and say, these are the guys that are the physical phenomenons on this team, and they forget how athletic CJ Fair is, and you see it on these alley-oops, these rebound plays. He just has a great will, and also, unlike a couple players on the Syracuse team, he's got very good hands as well.
He gets lost in the shuffle probably because he comes off the bench, but he's still second on the team in minutes played. So you look at CJ Fair, going back to the end of the UConn game, the press conference, Coach Boeheim said that following the Georgetown game that he's had a little bit of a down performance. He took that game to heart, and ever since then, these last 3 games, UConn, Louisville, and today against Rutgers, 3 straight double-figure performances, one of them a double-double, rebounding. He's just been playing the best for this team, carrying this team, and right now, it's just another element they really could add.
He's clearly their best player in the last couple games.
Yes.
Well, let's hear what the leading scorer for the Orange had to say following this one.
There was a couple of times where Scoop would just look like he was just lobbing it up to the rim for you or Fab. Is that something that you guys look for, just for him to throw it up to you guys?
Yeah. It's how they play in that zone. Sometimes Fab was being a big target, and they cover him, and sometimes leave me wide open. And Scoop do a good job looking at the whole floor and finding you.
8 for 8 from the free throw line. You've been working on that a lot lately?
Yeah. This whole week I was every day free throw shooting after practice, and just getting up shots. And it's all about once I made my first 2, I just try to get a rhythm, and I knew I was gonna knock it down.
Was this a tough gym to play in?
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough gym. A lot of away teams have tough arenas, but I mean the fans can't beat you. But they did a good job feeding off that crowd and getting a little momentum.
Fair following the win. Another timeout for us here on OPP. When we return, Dan and Josh break down the turning point of this game and also a favorite segment on OPP, the Are You Kidding Me? Coming up next. You won't want to miss it.
Everyone has friends. There's online friends. Friends to go out with on a Saturday night. Friends to hang out with and do nothing. Friends who show up on moving day. And then there are the friends who'll be there if someone is dealing with a mental illness. Are you one of those friends?
How far would you go to help someone? Would you go to the end of your driveway? Would you cross a street? Would you cross an ocean? Would you go if you could use your knowledge to teach someone? And in the process, maybe learn something yourself. Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace.
Rosita, did you know there's a right way to sneeze? Let's show them, Elmo. Yeah, got it. When you feel like your nose needs to give it at you, this is how you act. This is what you do. Lift your arm up high, bend it toward your face. Sneeze right there in the belly place. Achoo! You can do it with ease. Achoo! That's the right way to sneeze. Thank you.
To learn more about preventing flu, visit flu.gov.
The scene from outside the rack in Piscataway, New Jersey, inside where the Orange improved to 27-1, the most wins inside in the nation right now as Syracuse continues to roll. And right now we'll go Standing by with us is Josh Wetmore and Dan Gerard, ready to break down the turning point from today's game.
And looking at this game, Josh, really a close game, back and forth affair between these two teams all throughout the second half, but it was a big three that really sealed the deal for the Orange.
It was, and it was a 2 earlier, and then this 3 by Scoop Jardine that really sealed this game. And you were talking about them going back and forth. This is where it wasn't back and forth anymore. It's all Syracuse at this point, and it's going to be Scoop Jardine with the ball. And we talked about it before, Dan. When he gets it, sometimes he takes shots you don't want him to take. Just a great pull up here, and he sinks it from pretty far away. He's guarded. It goes down, and just a clutch shot from Scoop Jardine.
Yeah, he's guarded by Seegers, and really, with Scoop Jardine, we've come to expect it, especially in crunch time. Down the stretch, if it's a tight game, Scoop Jardine wants the ball in his hands. It's always not the prettiest of shots. I can only imagine Coach Boeheim just sighing in really the sight of Scoop Jardine launching these shots. They're errant, but you know what? They seem to find its way in.
A lot of fans sighing as well. Scoop Jardine pulls that up, but it does go in for Syracuse, and they get the win.
Thanks, Dan and Josh. And Dan, you don't have to imagine what Coach Boeheim was thinking about that or any of the overall game. Right now, we have the head coach live from Piscataway.
Yeah, he was unbelievable in the first half.
Coach, what
he
have
wasn't
you seen?
bad all the whole game, really.
Sorry, Coach. Over the past 3 games, what have you seen from CJ Fair that's been so different as opposed to the start of the season?
Nothing. Same guy, same player. He's been good all year. All year. He's a real good player.
Jim, is there a process that you're going through, a little bit of distilling, going from maybe playing 10 or 11 in a game to maybe a smaller?
Well, we're going to play the number I feel is appropriate for the game.
So do you envision going as deep as you were going earlier?
Did I answer that question or not? I think I answered your question. We're going to play the number that we think is appropriate. What that is depends on the game.
Okay.
Jim Boeheim not going to take much of the criticism following this latest win, 74-64 over Rutgers. Back with me is Josh Wetmore, Dan Gerard. We're going to go with the Are You Kidding Me segment, and especially appropriate, Are You? Get it?
Yes.
Okay,
good job. You're
first
slick.
up is what Chris Joseph, the whole team, first of all, not able to stop Rutgers following Rutgers, a player, losing a shoe on the court.
Yeah, and Rutgers, if you see right here, it's a scrappy play for the Rutgers team. And Syracuse playing good defense. They're putting pressure on Rutgers. One of the Rutgers players loses his shoe. Now, you see this sometimes, and the player will just keep playing. Instead, he tries to pick up the shoe. Now it's 5-on-4 for Syracuse. They still can't get the rebound. Rutgers ends up putting it in the basket. Are you kidding me? You can't stop Rutgers when they only have 4 offensive players. Syracuse defense needs to be better than that.
Yeah. So 5 versus 4 still wasn't good enough for the Orange to get it done on that play. Dan, you have a play to talk about. Scoop Jardine, not able to basically give Rutgers points right off a play.
And for all the praise that I was heaping on Scoop Jardine for that huge 3 that he hit, ultimately, which gave Syracuse the win, that 74-64 win, still has that tendency to make those mistakes. Like right here on the fast break, Scoop Jardine really launches an errant pass right into the hands of the Rutgers defender. Rutgers ultimately turns that around, turns that into transition offense, much like what Syracuse has done all season long, Josh. Easy dunk for Gilvitas Baruta, but right here, those errant passes that just scratches your head if you're a Syracuse fan, just seeing Scoop Jardine make those dumb plays. Are you kidding me? Come on.
After seeing that, I'm glad Scoop Jardine's not my driver in traffic. That was just a very errant decision all the way through. And we'll take a final timeout now on Orange Press Pass. When we return, we'll take a look around the nation with the AP Top 10. Also, Syracuse's remaining schedule, what that looks like as Syracuse tries to move on and go for 30 wins. Could they possibly win 30 wins in the regular season? We'll talk about it coming up next on Orange Press Pass.
We are different. Society should aspire to be more like us.
Be part of the first class. Get energized. Get outside.
Hold on, guys. It's gonna get bumpy.
And get moving. Experience the power of physical activity. Join the movement at ActionHeroAlliance.com.
You realize that 49 million Americans struggle with hunger? That's 1 out of every 6 Americans.
These people are around us every day. They're our friends, they're our coworkers, their kids go to school with our kids.
Sometimes we're not even aware that they're struggling. This problem is closer than you think. But so is the solution.
play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Taking a look at the Associated Press's top 10 rankings here on Orange Press Pass, you see SU remains number 2 in the nation. Kentucky continues to win again this weekend at 26-1. They lie ahead. Syracuse remains in the top 5 and they've stayed at 2 for the past few weeks. And taking a look at the Big East standings, they've remained at the top in those as well. 27-1, 14-1 in the conference, 2 losses less than any other team. So they have some breathing room in there. And as we look at the remaining schedule for the Orange in this Big East schedule, they're going up against South Florida on Wednesday. They'll be wearing those very controversial platinum jerseys. And then they got Connecticut on Saturday, and they close out the regular season against Louisville the following Saturday on March 3rd. But looking at the final remaining schedule, is it even possible? Do you think that the Orange could possibly win 30 wins in the regular season if they go 3-0 in those last 3 games?
Well, yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I mean, they're all winnable games. They've already beaten Connecticut and Louisville on the road. They're going to have them home this time. And USF, they are a surprising team. People can't sleep on that game, but I mean, is it doable? I mean, you've seen what they can do this season. It's absolutely doable.
It's not possible. I'd say it's more likely that it's going to happen.
Yeah,
They're
I think
win
that's a better word
because
for it.
I think looking at these last 3 games, Louisville on senior day, certainly Louisville have revenge on their mind. Obviously, we know the history between Syracuse and Louisville of late before last Monday. But senior day for Scoop Jardine and Chris Joseph, expecting a huge crowd inside the Carrier Dome. I'm not really buying that game that Louisville can really handle that adversity. UConn next Saturday. That will be a tough game. You have the game day. You have all that hoopla with this team. But I just feel like UConn is so much in the dust right now that I just can't think that they're going to muster up a win. If they muster up a win, then they'll be in the tournament. That's fine. That South Florida game, really can't sell them short, even though they do have a game tonight against Pittsburgh. Imagine them coming into the Dome at 10-4 in conference.
Yeah, the danger is that these are all very good teams, so if you sleep on any one of them, Syracuse could potentially lose.
Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting also with Connecticut, without Jim Calhoun. They've really struggled under George Blaney. And that game is going to be a late game on College game day. Do you think Syracuse is going to take advantage again of Connecticut? And then also Louisville, a team they've struggled. They could beat them twice in the same season, same regular season?
I seriously think so. You got to look back to 2 years ago when Syracuse did get a 1 seed in the tournament. They lost 2 of those. They lost 2 games to Louisville. And that was not a good Louisville team. That was a team that ultimately got a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. So I would not be shocked if Syracuse ultimately sweeps the Cardinals, and they go in 30-1. And think of it on a historical significance. Only 2 teams in Big East Conference history have gone through the conference slate with 1 loss. 1985 St. John's, they went 15-1. That was Walter Berry, Chris Mullen, that team. 1996 UConn went 17-1. That was ultimately with Ray Allen, Travis Knight, and all of them. So on a historical purpose, if this team goes 17-1, hand them the overall number 1 seed. They're going to be locked in, and they're going to be one of the serious threats to ultimately take home that national title.
Yeah, I will say this about them playing Louisville. Kurek did not have many points when they played last time. I wouldn't expect that this time around, so expect a better game out of him, which could mean maybe Syracuse could lose to the Cardinals.
Still a huge crowd, though, in the Dome on senior day. I would be shocked if Syracuse comes out with the loss.
I'm shocked by your historical reference, Dan. That was very impressive.
I tried.
Citrus TV's historian and statman Dan Gerard.
What could I say?
After this latest win, 74-64 win over Rutgers, what is your final thought? What do you take away from this, Josh?
Well, what I take away from this game is really just the performance from this team late. I'm very impressed by this team and the dynamic that they have. You're seeing it all come together. CJ Fair playing great. Carter Williams not getting as much time. Sutherland not getting as much time. I think they're zeroing in now on who really needs to be in these games when it's crucial to win. I think that's what they're finding out about this team, and it's a great thing for Jim Boeheim's squad.
Yeah, look at the Orange these last couple of games, these last few games, playing tight games. And I think in the long run, it's ultimately going to be beneficial for this team as we ultimately look ahead to the Big East and ultimately the NCAA tournament. A tight game on Monday against Louisville, a tight game today. I think that will be very crucial. They can handle that adversity. They'll be just fine.
That is all the time we have for Orange Press Pass with Dan Gerard and Josh Wetmore. I'm Ryan Coletti. Next up for Syracuse, South Florida on Wednesday. They're coming off a win, 74-64 over Rutgers. Thanks for watching.